We're here with Dan Buda, Austin City Council candidate for District 5. Thank you for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So tell us why should you be representing your district, and what will you do for the environment in terms of leadership?
One of the reasons that got me in this race was working at the Capitol. I spent the last four legislative sessions, several special sessions after that, working for Senator Wendy Davis as her chief of staff, as well as committee director for Senator Mario Gallegos. And what I found working at the Capitol and trying to pass legislation in an arguably a difficult place to get things done sometimes was that the cities stepped up on certain issues that I worked on. One issue I worked on a lot was payday lending reform. We worked for 3 sessions trying to get some regulation on that industry, and we're marginally successful in a few areas, but what happened out of that was the cities kind of stepped up. We'd worked with a coalition including municipalities, and you saw cities like Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, El Paso passing ordinances to protect their citizens when the legislature failed to do anything. And that really made me look at municipal government as a way where I may be able to use my policy background to help push policy that benefits people outside of the Capitol. And that's something I really looked at. And a lot of the issues I worked on at the Capitol, including issues regarding electricity and water, transportation, state budget, property tax reform, flooding and evacuation issues, those are all issues that are prominent right now in the city, and I felt I had the right experience to give it a go and make my case to the voters. So.
Okay, well, let's run through some of those. Transportation, well, how do we get out of this mess? It's more and more people on the roads, and it's just chaos.
I don't think we can build our way out. I think there are some projects that will be helpful, such as looking at some infrastructure changes on 45 and 35, for example, redoing some of the interchanges.
You oppose 45?
I do oppose 45.
Okay.
I would like to see, I'll say for the record too, I do not support the rail bond in November. I think that it's too costly at a time when we're facing serious problems with affordability issues. And I don't think it does enough for most of the city. I do support increasing our bus system. I think that Cap Metro needs to expand routes to more parts of the city. For example, they just unveiled the 803 bus route that goes down South Austin, but stops at Ben White. We don't have practically any public transportation south of Slaughter. It's just really hard to use that system. And if we're going to try to take cars off the road, we need to make sure that we're reaching all the parts of the city that need public transportation, as well as providing more frequency in stops and finding some way to really incent people to use mass transit. You go to other cities around the country, Boston, Chicago, New York, there is no stigma attached to using public transportation, but that still exists in Austin. And I think that some of the ways in the council in the past has tried to get people off of cars has been taking too much of a stick approach and not trying to find a carrot approach. And I think that's really what's going to help people feel more comfortable with
what would be carrots?
Carrots would be proposals for building micro apartment units, assuming that people will love to just jump into these tiny units and either sell their cars or these people that don't have cars to begin with. I don't know too many people without cars, and if you combine that with the people who would want to live in a very small unit like that, I don't think that's the right approach.
So talk about what you would propose in terms of land use planning and where we're headed with that.
I've been boning up on the Code Next process. I've been looking into the South Austin Combined Neighborhood Plan, which is a proposal for right in the part of district where I live, as well as the proposal that's being pushed through council on the ADUs, the Granny Flats. All these things are going at the same time, and my concern is that it's just a problem with process. We've had a lot of neighborhoods showing up to planning commission meetings, talking about the Combined Neighborhood Plan, very opposed to not just the infill methods that have been added to this or taken out and then added back. But in passing this proposal, we would be losing our notification process for notification of zoning near us, zoning changes. And with any of this planning going on, I think we need to just take a look at how we're going to do this as a whole. With the way this planning is going, with the development we've seen, especially in South Lamar, massive growth in these new buildings, I think we've seen a problem where we are pushing development up, and we are not actually building the foundation. And again, a literal foundation as well as metaphorical. We're not looking at a road and water infrastructure, how that's going to be affected by increased growth. We do traffic studies for these buildings on South Lamar, for example. We are not we're not doing it in a cumulative manner. We're actually looking at each building
Right.
as on itself, and when you combine those all, that's going to be a huge problem for traffic congestion. I think we need to do really a better job of planning overall, making a process more open to the public, more involving our communities and neighborhoods, and looking at issues that relate to overdevelopment that lead to flooding, drainage problems,
Right.
and so on and so on.
Okay, let's move to water. There's less rain happening, and well, there's less water in the lakes,
Yeah.
and more people coming. How should we be planning? What sort of infrastructure do we need in place to deal with that?
The first thing we need to do is recognize that we are in a long-term drought and that we can't predict when we're going to get out of it. And I've seen this at the legislature. We tried for sessions to put money into the state's water plan, which is some $50 billion short of where we need to be for implementing all of it. And the legislature really never took it up and got traction on the issue until we actually entered a drought. At some point we're going to get out of the drought, and if we have not planned for the future during the time we've been in the drought, I feel like the political wind is going to go out of the sails. People are going to think we're fine again, and it's going to lose momentum. I think we need to look at several things. One is we need to plan for the people we have and the people that are coming, and really look at how much water we have for long-term sustainability. We need to fix our aging water infrastructure. We are leaking some 4 billion gallons of water a year. We need to look at innovations like the Purple Pipe in reusing water for non-potable sources like irrigation, watering lawns. We need to develop new development that is more sensitive to water use, reuse, and a number of other things. And, at some point we're going to have to look at new sources of water as well. But I think for the short to midterm, we really need to look at ways that we can conserve water. There are some proposals out there for things like automating the dams, looking at more incentives for rainwater capture, the list goes on and on.
Okay. You have an innovative idea or something nobody else mentioned about an advocacy staff position, environmental advocacy. Say more about that. This is our final point.
I think it's important, and this may not be the only position like this, but I think it's important to look at how the city interacts with city departments, with city staff, with the public, with the environmental community. This could apply to a number of different interests, I'd say, but really what we need to do is have a liaison position that is targeted to different areas of concern across the city. That could be one environmental, that could be someone regarding water. But I think that we need to do a better job of communicating between the council and city departments with themselves, and the council and the city with the people in the city. I think there's been a lack of that in the past, and from what I hear from people in District 5, there's almost a dejection of the city just not really paying attention to what people in South Austin, and especially far South Austin, need and care about. And I think we need to take steps to put staff in the right positions, not just overload staff all over the place, but put staff in specific positions to be able to kind of liaise with different members of the community and city.
All right. Well, there's many topics we could talk about, but I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.